Director of Deadpool and Wolverine, Sean Levy, recently talked about all the restrictions that Disney CEO Bob Iger and Marvel Studio head Kevin Feige put on Deadpool 3, aka Deadpool and Wolverine. And what he said is, and I quote, "They didn't let us do anything we wanted," end quote. That's a lie. That's a lie. He said the exact opposite. See, the reason I said the whole lie quote is because I could easily just make an image, toss it up on Instagram, social media, right? It'll get shared by a couple people, and then it might hit critical mass and spread like wildfire, and there's nothing to it. That's kind of what's happened recently. Sean Levy talked about how Marvel Studios and Disney were to work with in terms of what they were allowed to do and how restrictive Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige was. And if you were to just read some of these headlines, like Sean Levy reveals Marvel Studios and Disney restrictions, and if you weren't to read the actual context of it, you understand just from that headline, oh, Marvel Studios and Disney restricted it, right? And if you're not going to read it for yourself, and you see a hate post that goes, "See, I told you Marvel did this," you're going to be mad. But let me read you the actual quote and why it's important. He said, and I quote, "I have to say, every time Ryan, Hugh, and I went in expecting pushback, we got support from Kevin and from everyone at Disney. They have trusted us and allowed us to do a version of Deadpool and Wolverine that we feel is best," end quote. Going hand in hand with what he said a few months ago about how Disney did not actually tell them anything. Like, Disney was like, yeah, just do whatever you want. We trust you. And how Kevin Feige was overseeing it. And even he was like, yeah, so you guys do this. Just make sure these things that we're working on elsewhere, don't reference that. Just because that's, going elsewhere. Which is what Marvel always does. It's what every studio does, right? So, there we go. Him talking about the pushback on the film. And the Disney agenda that there is, I guess, to not deliver a real Deadpool. It's just not here. It's not. As he says, as everybody's always said, as Bob Iger said after investors' calls during interviews, they're letting them make the films they want. Because Bob Chapek was the opposite. And when Bob Iger got back in, he was like, we're going to do things the old way. The people that know what they're doing, they're going to be allowed to do what they want. And clearly, we're getting that. So, it's sounding pretty good. Every time you hear an interview, Levy's really leaning on actually, this is the exact film we want. Nobody's saying otherwise, which has got to be good and reassuring.